Doesn't
No,
seem
yep,
to have.
yep.
Yeah, all right. So it is Tuesday. It is Thursday, January 19th, and this is our weekly developer meeting. We don't have anything in the forum because there was no forum post this week. Sorry about that, everybody. There is one now. So if you have any comments and you want to add them, you can add it. And there will be more forum posts in the future. And then there's nothing super urgent for us to talk about since we just had a release. There's nothing else on the agenda, so we're just going to open it up to open Q&A or general discussion items for anyone to talk about. Before we get to that, let's do some quick introductions. I am Jen Lampton. I am joining us from Oakland, California. I'm very excited about all of the new stuff that just went into core, and I really want to update all my websites to use it. I'm excited about, but I don't have any super pressing Backdrop related news to share. So let's turn it over to Greg.
I'm Greg. I'm usually in Australia, Melbourne, but I'm joining from Greece now. So many things, but yeah, I'll hold off until later. I'll pass it on to Luke.
I am Luke McCormick in Saramone, California. I feel like there's this opportunity to hijack this empty meeting. So but I just want to see whatever Joseph's working on. That's usually good stuff. But I'll throw it over to Irina.
I'm Irina Zaks, working from Stanford today. Involved with soft landing, Drupal 7 soft landing initiative, and most of my work is targeted to create better flows of Drupal 7 so people can take advantage of modern supported systems.
Let's go to Joseph then.
All right. Yeah. I'm Joseph. I'm a developer from Las Vegas, Nevada, and I am also a core committer, although I have not been doing much with Backdrop lately. So sorry to disappoint you, Luke.
And Justin.
Hey, Justin Christopherson, in Denver, Colorado. Help out with the infrastructure when I can, and ported some modules in the past.
That's everybody. All right. Well, Irina, I don't know if you want to do a quick spiel on Drupal 7 soft landing, just in case anyone was really itching to hear about that today. And then maybe we can move into some of Greg's list of issues after that. Does that sound good?
Sure. So last year in December, Drupal Association started Drupal 7 soft landing initiative. And the goal of the initiative is to help current users of Drupal 7 to move off to modern supported platforms. And one of the goals is to keep community together. There's a number of tools that we're trying to develop to help people to move off Drupal 7 that include all kinds of upgrader site audit modules, and we opened communication channel for people to share their ideas, concerns, positive or negative experiences, and we hope to do lots of presentations this year.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. All right, Greg, what's on your list? He's opened 15 tabs in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm going to be a bit selfish. So there's pretty much, there's a lot of pull requests and issues that are reviewed from other people. It's just that I went to my pull requests list first. So there's multiple issues that I need feedback with or help with. One of them is 5934. That's a follow-up on the really good work that we've done to separate the layouts into those that are layout pages and layout overrides.
Sorry, did you say 5954 or 59?
5934.
34. 3. Okay, thanks. I'm going to drop these links into the agenda for people who want to follow along.
Yeah, so basically we have, I saw this from visual perspective of the tables are there, and I have a side by side before and after screenshot of the proposal. And I saw it from the perspective of the visual aspect of it, and also from when I expanded the how layouts work thing, the text that I was reading, it mentions the default layouts as a special case, but it doesn't sort of like point them out. But I know that Eugen and Bug Folder Robert did a lot of work, and I don't want to interfere with what you were trying to achieve in case that I'm doing it. And if you think this is going to the wrong direction, then I'm happy to close that issue.
Yeah, I before we came up with what we did in that previous issue, this is what I wanted. I wanted the default layouts to be special and all of the other layouts to be grouped together. But when we did that, it seemed to me like it was more important that the standalone page layouts were different from the override layouts. And then I got really confused about how to separate them in both ways, to have them be like separated both by default and not default, and by overrides versus standalone pages. I think your mock-up looks pretty good. So in general, I'm in favor of making it more clear that those are special. The thing that's tricky is the things that happen in sequential order from top to bottom, right? Where with standalone layouts, they all operate by themselves. But if you have multiple layouts on the same path, you can control which order they're in. And so when you put the default ones at the bottom, that's correct because they would come at the end if no other match happened. But when you group them together, you've now got like the admin one coming before the not add one. I don't know this matters. This is just my one thought. And people might think that it would, one might override the other because of them being in a specific order. This is also the top to bottom thing is a thing that I know as having worked a lot with panels and being really familiar with how layout works. It's sort of a hidden feature in Backdrop, whereas the fact that a layout template is being used for default is a very obvious thing. So if you think it makes more sense to have the default things grouped together and is not that big a deal if people are understanding about order of operations, they probably know that the default templates are special. I'm fine to.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. So first of all, we already have code that pushes those two layouts at the bottom of the list. Yeah. We already do that, right? And we already have a heading which basically explains what these are, default layouts, which is a separate thing, and a brackety thing that explains it as a help text, which is the pattern that we are using for the other two groups. Yeah. So that's basically the only visual distinction that I'm sort of like separating it from the table. But yeah, anyways, I'll as I said, I brought this up because I need feedback. I'm happy to close it if you think that it's more confusing. And because of this separation, there was some slight changes that needed to happen in the help text as well. Mm-hmm. A bit of reordering in the bullet points, not reordering, I think mentioning one of the bullet points, the default layouts as a step in the logic of what happens.
Yeah, it looks like the code was even already broken up to do this before. Yeah, this is just, it seems so sensible. Yeah. I like this, Greg. There are 3 kinds of layouts. There are not 2 kinds of layouts.
That's the thing that you need to change in the Well, it depends on which context you examine things from, right? But yeah. And then from that, I have a couple of a very small issue that doesn't even deserve to be in the agenda, like 5936, which is just to add a cancel link in the layout reorder form, just for usability perspective. The bigger thing there is 5937. So this has to do with the reordering of the layouts. And what we do is the reorder buttons basically add queries in the URL, and they add the name of its layout that you need to reorder. And if you have like 12 or more layouts, then it can get really messy and lengthy. There is a theoretical limit to the length of the layouts when browsers start to behave oddly, but maybe newer versions of browsers don't even they handle that gracefully. But while we're basically reordering all the layouts that are under a path, it seemed reasonable to me to, instead of pass the layout names in the query, we just pass the layout and that's it. So yeah, and it still needs some work. But yeah, just general thoughts and feedback on that. Also, there's existing code, now that I remember, there's existing codes that handles like the inline comments on that existing code is sanity check. And it checks what happens if you, I think it handles one of the two cases, the odd cases, but not properly. It doesn't show any messages, or it just throws a 4 of, I don't know, page not found or something like that, but then you have to click back. So basically, yeah, add links and make things more predictable. So yeah.
Yeah, I think we might need to make the URL safe for the % symbols. Like translate in and out, you know, because the % is not a in a URL, we have node/%, right? But if we put that at the end of a query string, that could be really confusing. But so I think the way the backdrop normally does that is it converts like the backslashes into HTML entities or whatever. But we might want to come up with a cleaner way to handle that so that we just remove the % or something, so that we can identify contexts via the URL or.
Yeah, I think I do something like URL encode, like I use a backdrop function for it. But even our functions for visually, to be more visually pleasing, they just don't convert the forward slashes. They convert the rest of the characters, but not the forward slashes. I'm just mentioning it. It doesn't play a big role in this.
Because forward slashes are usually parts of the URL, I think.
Yeah.
But not if you have a query like the ampersand or the thing. So it distinguishes that. It doesn't treat it as a query, but yeah.
Okay.
In general, I think it's a good idea to make the URL shorter and the query string shorter. So yeah, if we can figure out a way to do that, I think that's good.
Okay. Then, sorry, go ahead.
I'm just thinking.
I'll be right back.
Could you pass the information as post data instead of use form submit instead?
I tried. I don't know why I followed this practice. I tried to not change things that much, so I just tried I tried to do it via menu router item, but then I had issues with that because then the slashes. So instead of passing it as a query, I tried to pass it as a.
This is
as
just
an
to clarify
argument.
that this is the reorder form for the menu for the layouts.
For the layouts that are in the same path, yeah. So if you try to pass a path as an argument in the menu, like in a hook menu, then the slashes there are a problem because you can't distinguish between is it an argument or is it the actual path. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I feel like the correct way to do that is as a form with post data, but that might be changing it a lot more than you want.
Yep.
Found a hard problem, Greg.
Because with the
that's not the only one.
if it was post data, you could just pass whatever characters you wanted and then it would just work for the most part.
Yep. All right. Then the next issue would be 5927 when I started to do most of the work for PHP 8.2 compatibility. It's a huge change as is it currently sits at 151 files, but they're very like trivial changes. So where it currently stands is that there's no errors thrown anymore in the front end when you go to the front page and you try to log in, etc. But there's still a lot of tests failing. I think that up to this point, a quick review should be enough. And I don't know how to move forward. Like maybe we merge this and we call it a partial PHP 8 support. And then in the last comment on that issue, I've outlined the bits where I'm not sure how to handle it best. So there's 3 major chunks of failures, which are 3 things. And I don't know the best approach to just tackle those. Anyone that there's a thing I've reached my limits, feel free to just take up on my pull request and add on top of it.
Okay.
Then
Oh. Is that, you're talking about the creation of dynamic property?
yes,
There's, okay. They have so in older versions of PHP, you could just say like my variable arrow, some property name and set it to whatever you want without having to define that property in your class.
Yeah.
That is now deprecated. You have to define every property that is set in every class. So that's just going to involve going through and finding every single place we set a property on any object.
exactly. And I'm not sure, like when it comes to the database, I don't want to be touching those places, like because the one that it's complaining is the date SQL handler, and it talks about placeholders. So yeah, and we need to also add doc blocks to explain what these are. Yeah, because now PHPCS is going to complain. So it's good because it's going to drive us to a bit more consistency or compliance. I don't know, but
At least force
yeah.
us to document our properties.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah. And then the last issue that I'm gonna bring up, and then I'm gonna shut up until no one else has to bring up anything, is 5945, which is really fresh while we're doing the previous meeting. So again, it's one of those rabbit holes that I get into. There's code and an inline comment that says how things are supposed to work, but then it doesn't work that way in the UI, and it's fixed in D8, 9, and 10, but not in Backdrop and 7. I would like us to have some saner explanation why we do not allow the cancellation methods that have an access, a hashtag access property to be used. I sort of like understand it, but then again, what's the point of allowing users to cancel their own account if they can't cancel or select anyway? And then there's inconsistency between the two delete account, the last 2 options, right? Both of them delete the account, but only the last one calls access to permission, which permission is administer users, and it doesn't make sense to me. So if we're using that access check for that permission, why we're not checking it for the other one? And also, it says it's going to delete content.
Yeah. That's weird. So I think in general, we've got to do testing with users that are going to fail those access checks to find out like if they're, because I think anything that has an access check will be available to the admin user because it's going to pass all the checks. And I think that what is this is saying is like, okay, you can set a default value, but if the person doesn't have access to do that thing, that person that's deleting their account, like if you set the default value to like delete the account and its content, but the user who's deleting their account doesn't have permission to delete the content, then I don't know what's going to happen in that case. It's probably going to do it anyway. I don't know. But
So
I think
the
that like
simplest
what it's trying to do makes sense. We just need to make sure that people understand from the user interface what it's trying to do, which I think it's
Yeah.
not.
And from an admin perspective, like you see like when you try to cancel a user account, as you said, because you're an admin, you'll see the fourth option. But then
Mhm.
if you go to configure the settings, you won't see it. And unless you look at the code, you don't know what's going on, unless you know about this thing. So I was thinking maybe we show that option, but we disable it and don't allow it to be selected and have a little bit of a text thing that says, this is
But
a thing, but you can't
that's
set
going to
it
be
as a
shown to
default.
like every user though.
Not
And
every
so,
user.
yeah,
But
because
that's-
every account former is going to have an option to delete it, right? So,
No. So there's a few places where these options are being shown, right?
yeah.
As an admin, when you try to cancel another account,
Ah,
you want it there. As an admin, when you're configuring the account settings, you don't want it there.
you
You
do
don't
want
want
it
to.
there.
You don't want to set it. That's how it's not. So this is the code is removing it so that the admin cannot set it as the default. That's what the code is trying to do. To prevent the admin to set it as the default option for other people when they're canceling their accounts.
Which one is it removing?
The last one. I can share my screen and show you.
Okay, so that's weird. I mean, I
It
could
is.
see how somebody would have said, "Don't ever let anyone delete their own content," but like in reality, there are probably a lot of organizations that's like, sure, you want to delete the content you provided, that's no issue. So it's strange that it's forcibly preventing that from being a default. Um,
Yeah, see?
yeah.
That I found a hard one. Here's another one. So
Remove all of the methods that have access defined, as those cannot be configured as default. What?
Yeah.
Yes, they
so
can.
so as I said, we either fix it, which is what my pull request is very simple. It fixes the functionality
Okay.
so that it does what the code and the comment say and intended.
Says.
Yeah, but do we want to do that? In that case, we need to remove the code that was attempting to do it but wasn't doing it, and the comment that says that this is what's going to happen, and we need to remove it from where was it? User admin settings, and also from the hook that is being called the hook user cancel methods alter.
Yeah, I don't think we can remove it from the hook because that would be an API break. So if we want to do that, we could do it in Backdrop too. But I think we could definitely fix it.
Yes, but anyone in Contribo custom who is implementing the hook and he's adding access, they would expect to do what the hook is saying it's going to do, but it's not doing it.
Did you try that?
Yes.
And did you find a contrib module, or did you just implement your own hook to do it?
No. If you look at the code, you will see that basically. So if you look at the pull request,
because access is like supposed to be a Boolean.
yes. So
let me look at your pull request. This is probably going to explain everything.
Yeah, from the pull request, just there's a minor just adding a the thing, but ignore that. If you expand the code before my change,
in user pages.
Yes, in userpages.inc.
Okay.
You will see that there's an array of methods that has all 4 methods, right? And each one has a title and a description, but only the last one has access, right? And they don't have hashtag whatever, it's just plain title, plain description, and plain access. And then there's a comment that says, turn all methods into a real form, into real form elements. And this is where it converts it to hashtag something, hashtag title, hashtag description, but it doesn't do hashtag access. So even if you implemented hashtag access in your hook, it would never be forwarded to the settings page. We basically do nothing with access. So the line that I've changed on the description basically just removes the redundant brackets around the is set thing. But
Mhm.
the conditional that I've added basically says, all right, if you specified access, then add hashtag access to the method element checkbox radio, basically.
So I'm not sure that does the same thing. And this is probably a bigger problem. But like what's supposed to be in the hook is like a Boolean true false value that someone's defining. Like,
Or
do you
a
have
user
access to it or not?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But like I think what we would rather have is like an access callback. I mean, I don't know, maybe they do the evaluation in their hook beforehand, but it looks like this is a combination of like an info hook and something that performs in operations. It's one of those weird like in between things where it's like if it's an info hook, it should be like, oh, it's true false, but it's not because it has to calculate that value of true false. It can't be a, like static information about the thing. So yeah,
If you look at the definition, I have a link in the issue on the API side for the hook. Oh no, I don't. If you search,
I just searched the API site for that.
Yeah, search the API for the hook, and you will see what I mean. Because the hook API, the documentation for the hook says that the method, right?
Hook user cancel methods also.
Methods. So the methods.
A Boolean value indicating whether the user can access the method. If access is defined. So it's not even saying if you have access to or not. It's just saying if it's defined.
Even if you define it, even if you specify the access, then this should not be set as a default, ever.
And that form you're modifying,
that's
only does the user cancel methods form, does it appear on the user account cancellation form, or is this only the settings?
Okay, only on the settings only.
Okay.
And what it does there, it's basically it checks if the hashtag access has been specified for the element, then it sets its access to true. Sorry, to false all the time, without checking what the callback or whatever it is.
Yeah. That's what it says it's doing.
Supposed to do, yeah.
Yeah.
This is what, yeah.
But
So
it doesn't.
Basically, if there's any case where it could be disabled for the user, it's disabled as the default.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then,
well, I don't think that's what your thing does, though, Greg.
Because yes, that's what it is.
No, you set pound access to the value of access, where if somebody set access to true, that would set it to true. But what they're saying is if it's set to anything, true or false, it needs to be false.
That check then is done on the settings function, which is, wait, user admin settings.
But this needs to be false all the time. Like it shouldn't be method access. If it's set, it needs to be false. It needs to be,
no, it doesn't need to be false because this is not the only place where it's being used.
Right. No,
This is the form element where it needs to be false, though.
Yes, but these form elements are being used as well in other places. So in other places, you want to enforce, yeah.
So if you look at the first file he modified, there's the line below it that says is set, and it checks for the access and then sets it to false if it's set.
Yep.
But this is, oh geez, this is sloppy.
The bottom code is embedded within the top code.
If is set true, make it false.
Yeah, so if it exists, if it's set, set it to false all the time, but only within the context of the admin settings page. When the admin is actually trying to delete another account, then that's where the actual user access or callback or whatever you have is going to kick in. I can show you. I can show you what this actually does. Like I can share my
Yeah.
screen. I can show you. Like maybe it will make better sense if I show you like the two cases where you would
I
find.
think I understand what's going on. I'm just not sure. I'm not sure we can fix it. I mean, maybe. I don't know if we should fix it. Like maybe we should just remove that whole
Which is one of the
concept.
points.
But
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, interesting.
And I'm not going to go into more rabbit holes because these are the things that I find as I work on other issues. And it's like, yeah, I don't want to lose track. So that's why I raise these issues and pull requests just so that they're not forgotten.
What did Drupal 10 do?
Sorry?
So you said Drupal 10 seems to have fixed it?
Yes, Drupal 8, 9, and 10. Yes. If you look at the screenshots,
Yeah.
so it basically, although it exists, it is removed from the settings form. So this is the bit where you set the default, not the bit where you select what the action is.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So in D7 and backdrop, you have the fourth option showing up there, despite the fact that it has specified an access thingy.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Interesting. I think you did the same thing as Drupal, which is probably fine, but maybe we should revisit later and be like, what the heck? The heck are we trying to do here? And can we do it in a way that's less messy? But,
Talking about messy things, I saw that you saw my pull request about the contrib module, the node override thing, and that you merged it. And see how he said, oh, you know what, this module just provides per content type permissions, and this is a good case to put it in the matrix. Havoc. Because
is there a new pull request for that?
I have code, but you're not gonna like it. Because what we do is when we are creating a new content type, we don't know what the content type name is yet, but we still need to set permission names. Right. So what we do is we append, when we save, we append the content type space content thing in the permissions, and then we clean it up. But if another module like this contrib module tries to add permissions, then we add things to those permission names which don't make sense. It creates bogus permissions, and then you have to do some really good regular expression magic to just clean it up.
Yeah, we should look at the core function that does the cleanup and see if we can expand that to handle any permissions that are altered in from contrib. Because I think that's going to be something that everyone's going to run into if they want to add those permissions there. Hacky workaround would be just to add it on edit and not add.
Yeah.
It's a hacky.
So it works. It works there. So this is how it all started. So I've done that, and it works when you. So I was playing with the existing content types, and then when I tried to create a new one, it was all left blank, like no permission was being saved. And when I checked the configuration, I go, what are these permissions? And they all had like a silly name at the end, content type space content in the name of the permission, which did not correlate to any existing permissions. Anyway, it was fun. Long term, I would like us to have an API form element that is called permission matrix that thinks so that other modules can override it.
Yep.
And add permissions to the array that it gets fed. So, but yeah,
I love it.
We do have an issue for that, but it's cool.
We probably, yeah. Do we have code to handle submitting, like saving incomplete permissions matrices?
No,
Like-
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, we should probably have at least a like helper function for that.
Like some sort of basic API for building out part of a matrix and then letting people edit and save it, so you don't have to give people a whole. So we could use this all over the place to just give people part of the permissions for
Yeah.
whatever's relevant on what they're doing.
I think right now you have to add a special theme callback to your form API element in order to get access to the same thing that core does.
The problem is that these are dynamic permissions, to put it another way. These are permissions that are being generated and they include the name of the content type within them, the machine name. So another approach that I thought was generate a UUID or something, a unique ID, when we are presenting the creation form for the content type, use that as a temporary name and then replace it with the actual name with a regex. That would be a bit better, and then core could be making less assumptions there and trying to inject strings,
Yeah. And that would
Now
be
that-
sensible because we could, whatever the UUID is, we could just pass it through the form as a value and then it would be in the submit handler and we could do
Yeah.
whatever we needed with it. Yeah, I like it.
Now that I say it, I like it as well. All right, and now I'm going to shut up and give the opportunity to others to bring up any issues.
Okay, I have one. Hold on, I've got to find it. Okay. Okay, here it is. It's issue number 5940. This was a follow-up, something that Greg said he wanted us to do also, which I was talking to Nate about like the night before, like, but that's really valuable to know that. I'm like, well, then let's add it dynamically. But before I had a chance to create an issue, Greg was already like, I want to see this anyway. Like, yeah, so do I. So I made an issue and then I filed a pull request, I think while I was waiting for tests to run or something. So all it does is there's a setting called admin role, and we now have a new role description that people can configure. And now what it does is it takes whatever role you have admin role assigned to you and it sticks it on the end of the description. So it'll let you know this role is assigned to all, or these permissions will be assigned to.
So I've done
Everyone's
a
role.
review. I'm not sure if you saw it. So
Okay.
the problem, did you see the review?
I haven't seen it yet. I was just pulled it up.
Yeah, just go in there. There's an interesting. So what you were trying to do is you're adding the actual text in the description.
In the
And then it
display of the
saves it.
description. Oh, it
And it
saves it
saves-
there? Oh, that's not
It saves
good.
it. So then when I try to change it, it still remains as part of the
What?
old description. So what we need to do is implement
How
it
does
on
it-
the theme,
How does it
'cause you're-
save it?
because you're saving it as the description. So if you
No, I wasn't. I was just attacking it to the end of the description. It shouldn't have been on the
Yes.
form at all.
isn't it? I think it was in form.
Well, I mean, it, obviously, if you tested it, but that's not where I wanted it to go.
Yeah, no, it needs to be on the theme that generates the table, just there.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be in the theme because it's not a theme. Like we should not be adding any text in the theme. It just needs to get attached to the thing that we're about to theme so that it's there. And that's what I was trying to do, but I might not have done that. Yeah, this is a form. This should not go in the form.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have another look. Well, I appreciate you looking at it, catching that.
Kiam Laluno and Laren have filed a few issues with regards to image extensions that are being hard-coded. You saw those, Jen, right?
Mhm.
So I had Indigozella already provided feedback, and she says that she agrees with the notion of either providing a function that provides the defaults, or maybe a constant somewhere where we
Mhm.
change only when we add new support,
Mhm.
and then we start using those, and also add some hooks so that contrib and custom modules can alter the array of extensions that way instead of hard coding them.
This is tough though, because sometimes the support isn't provided in core and is only provided by like your server.
Yeah, like the GD library.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
Or if you're not using GD,
Like
like
what-
if you're using ImageMagick or something.
Yeah.
So I think
Like
a static.
depends.
Go ahead, Joseph.
Yeah, it depends a lot on like what you filed into PHP.
Yeah. So I think that I don't think it should be a like global or something. It needs to be alterable so that if you install a contrib module that's supposed to add support for it, or if you configure your server in a way and you want to enable it yourself, you can. But yeah, I saw several of these. I didn't see this one. So
Oh,
this
Joseph.
one is specifically for Hero Block.
Yeah, so there's previous issues. I'm not sure which one you're looking at. Are you looking at 4998?
I was looking at 4937. Let me look at 98.
Because that's another one there.
It would help if I.
This
the
is
list of
image
issues and not the
fields.
list of pull requests.
Sorry?
It'd help if I looked at the list of issues and not the list of pull requests.
I do both. And then Joseph, if you wanna, this might be something that you might like to have a look at. 5943 is an exception that is being thrown when you run the tests, but only under specific circumstances. You need to have the language module enabled and add another language than the default, and then it fails.
There's no pull request on here yet.
So you have an extra language enabled in your base site.
Yeah, so if you're running the tests on your local, you will never see this unless you have enabled language and added so most likely developers that work with multilingual sites will see this, which is the case for Aggipiano and Indigozella and myself now. And I didn't dig into it to see what's wrong, and obviously neither the guys did. But yeah, I thought it might be an interesting one to look into.
I could take a look at that.
I'll go and watch the previous meeting, but before we wrap up, I had the blackout happen at the moment where you said that reindexing thing was a bad idea because it could break sites where that's unwanted. Would it help if there was a checkbox there that says do not delete or do not reindex or something like that?
Yeah, so we had I worked on a site where the reindexing took a really long time, and so we couldn't use, like, if you forced it to rebuild right away, would cause problems. So what we would just want to like clear the index or mark the index as needing to be rebuilt, and then just let cron handle it, or let like run a drush script.
Even if you bust it, it's still
Like we had batches that I suspect that the batch reindex on that site would take well over a day.
right. And even if you play with the setting that says number of items to reindex during cron runs, right?
Right, well, I think that just affects Cron. I don't know if that affects the other.
Yeah. Oh,
batch.
yeah. You're right.
I haven't looked at the code for that. But it's
Yeah.
just, it had so much content that that would just take up a CPU thread for like nonstop for over 24 hours.
Right. Do you want to create an issue for it, and then like a quick solution that I thought was in the confirmation dialog that we have, where it gives you the two options to re-index the entire site or only the remaining. Maybe we need another option that says do not re-index, schedule only.
Right. Yeah, that would work.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I can create an issue.
Okay, cool. Right.
Oh, we are
So
at
it's
time,
2
aren't
minutes
we?
past, so maybe we need to wrap things up, right?
Yeah, okay. Well, thanks everybody for jumping in and brainstorming on issues in the queue.
I like how you said, I said we need to wrap up, and you said, yeah, okay. I don't want to do that.
More things, it's fine. There's
Interesting
always
things.
more issues.
This is not a sprint. It's not a sprint.
Sort of, almost a
Okay.
sprint.
Yeah. All right, cool.
All right,
See you guys.
thanks.
All right.